So when you work with protection trainers and when you work with decoys, you are probably inevitably going to run into a decoy or a protection trainer. And I'm making that distinction because they're not always the same, but a lot of times they are. A lot of times a protection trainer will do some decoy work, right? Or they do a lot of the decoy work. But at some point, you're going to run into a protection trainer slash decoy that has very little communication skills when it comes to working with the handlers that they're working with. And this comes in the form of just poor communication, but it also comes in the form of just berating. It comes in the form of even insults. Very just short fuse. It's as though they're doing you a favor. Maybe they are. Maybe in some instances they are. But a lot of times they're not. A lot of times you're a paying client. A lot of times you're a club member, which you could say you're not a client, but at the same time, you're going to them. There's an exchange, whether that exchange is monetary or whether that exchange is I help you, dog, so then you can help me. I help you, dog, so you can contribute to the club. In either case, it's some sort of exchange. But even if they're doing you a favor, even if they're training your dog for free, we know that the communication should be better. This is a professional, right? These dog trainers, these decoys, these protection trainers, they are professionals. And as professionals, we in general need to hold ourselves to a high standard. We need to hold ourselves to the same standard that any professional would hold themselves to. But some of the things that you'll hear the dog trainer berating you, sometimes in front of a bunch of other people. Sometimes you'll hear the dog trainer be very condescending towards your dog. So that sometimes gets done in front of everybody. And sometimes it's just very direct, harsh language towards the handler, towards you, if you're the handler. And of course, we know that this is inappropriate, but people still do it. Some of the things that I've seen, I've seen this. And I haven't been around a lot of people like this. Normally, I control the training sessions. Normally, I'm the one doing the decoy work. Normally, I'm the one that is supervising the protection work. And of course, I don't tolerate that. I don't let anybody, and also the people that I surround myself with, the trainers that I work with, the club members that I have, they're not like that anyway. But when I do the decoy work, when I do the training, I don't conduct myself like this. But I have seen it. I've seen it in some occasions here and there, where what I'll see the decoy be very direct, almost harsh. Now, I don't have a problem with that. Okay, so if the helper or the training decoy or the trainer is very direct and to the point, sometimes that's their style. Sometimes that's how they do it. That's how they communicate. And as long as they're simply being direct to the point, then that's not a problem. We know there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there is anything wrong with that. So if that hurts your feelings, I think maybe you need to get a little bit of a thicker skin. So I'm not really concerned about that. What is concerning is when the trainer or the decoy is harsh, when they are almost short of insulting you. They're using very harsh language. They're basically yelling at you. That is blatantly and obviously inappropriate. right? We know that. I think as adults, we know that. Even if you were a child and somebody talked to you like that, you would inherently know that this is not right. But as an adult, you can look at this and go, rationally, none of this makes sense. You're a professional. Why are you conducting yourself like that? So when you see that, it's it leaves you with a bad taste, right? It leaves you with a terrible taste. It gives you a bad experience, and some people will even just stop doing protection work because of that. After I made that post, I've had a bunch of people share that post. A bunch of people put it on their stories, and a bunch of people message me, telling me, "Oh my God, you hit that right on the money." Like, "Oh my goodness, I know so many people like this." And there was like a handful of people, and this is just after posting it not long ago. There's like a small handful of people that have told me that they don't do protection work anymore because of that. And that is terrible. To me, that's just awful. It's terrible that somebody would just shy away so much because of a bad experience or a handful of bad experiences they have with helpers like this, with decoys like this. This is definitely a problem with their personality, with their approach, with their character. It's an ego problem. It's a combination of all of those things, insecurity, whatever you want to throw into that mix to diagnose this specific issue. So when people act like this, which I've seen, unfortunately not a lot, but I've seen it, and I've been told a lot too. I've had club members and clients come to me and tell me, "Oh man, I went to this club and I would just leave the meetings crying." I have club members that have told me this in different occasions, that they stopped going to a club or stopped training with this particular person because that particular person would just be so harsh and so inappropriate with them that they would practically leave them crying, and they would just go home crying. I've had multiple people that I work with that have had that experience. And of course, this is inappropriate. If I'm the trainer, if I'm the decoy and I have more experience than you, it is my job to try to pass that experience onto you, to pass my knowledge onto you, to teach you. And sometimes I do need to get firm. Sometimes I need to go, "Hey, listen, this is what I need you to do." Okay, there are times where I'm working with a handler and I have to tell them post. And then they're giving their dog a little bit of extra room. If you don't know what I mean is, when I say post, I mean just be a tree. Don't let your dog advance not even an inch, right? Just hold a leash, nice wide stance, leash with two hands, one of the hands against your hip or behind your back, so you're sitting on the leash, sort of, and you make it so the dog does not move, so that way as I'm working the dog, I'm not surprised by the dog going 10 inches forward as I'm trying to work it and as I'm trying to get it to target right? If I say post, I don't want the dog to advance not even an inch, let alone like another foot. So sometimes I have to communicate that, and I have to go, "Okay, I need you to post up." And then the dog advances like 2 feet. I'm like, "I need you to post up." The dog advances, and then I have to go, "I need you to post up." Or then what I have to do is I have to assume maybe they don't understand what I'm saying. So what I'll do is, when the dog is put away, when there is no pressure, right, of having the dog there and working the dog, and then having to teach the handler what I'm asking of them while their dog's out, what I'll do is I'll have them put the dog away, and then I'll go, "Bring me your leash. Here's how I want you to hold the leash. Here's what I mean when I say post. Here's what I mean when I say do this." And then I communicate that to them. And if that doesn't work, then I will then maybe get more firm. Then I'll go, "Hey, listen, I need you to pay attention to this. You're not doing this. Come on, we got to get going. We have to get past this." And I'll do that. And there have been times where I've done that. There have been times where I've gotten firm with some of my handlers, not berating them, not insulting them, not being harsh to them, but firm to where I'm going, come on, let's go. We got to do this, right? And sometimes that does come across a little bit, it does come across a little bit harsh. Okay, it does come across like a little bit rude. And it's because in the moment, we're in the heat of the moment, right? We're working with a dog and the dog is snapping its teeth. And so we have to be so precise here, because one mistake on the handler's part could make the training session go bad, or worse, it could get somebody hurt, right? It could get me bit in places that I don't want to get bit. So I don't want to do that. So because I don't want to do that, sometimes once I've exhausted I need to show you how to do this, and I know I've showed it to you and I've been patient. Sometimes I have to go, come on, let's go. I need you to do this. I need you to catch up. I need you to get going. And that does come across harsh, and that's not what I'm talking about, okay? That sometimes has to get done, and once again, if you're on the receiving end of that, you don't take that personal, and if you do take that personal and that offends you, maybe you need to reflect and go, okay, maybe I do need to catch up a little bit. Maybe I do need to put a little bit more effort into this. But what I'm talking about is when the trainer or the decoy doesn't even bother to go the extra steps of teaching, showing, and being patient. And they go straight to berating. They go straight to being incredibly harsh, using very foul language, which I personally don't care, but I know some people do. So as professionals, again, I want to hold myself to a higher standard, and I think as professionals, we all should do that. We should aim to get better every time. One of the things that I notice is protection dog trainers put themselves on a pedestal, and they don't always do that on their own. Sometimes their little fan base, their followers, right? Their consistent clients, their friends will put them on a pedestal, and that is okay. Okay, that's perfectly fine. That's not the issue. The issue is when they're put on a pedestal and then they think, I am so good and so sought after that I don't need to be patient with you. That it is your privilege to get to work with me. And when they feel that way, when they feel it's a privilege that you get to work with me. Now, they might not say that outright. But if this is the attitude that they have, like, I'm the decoy and this is the way I'm doing it, and that's the way you're gonna take it. And if you don't like it, go somewhere else. The problem with that attitude, of course, it's one attitude that could foster this sense of, I'm gonna say to you whatever I'm gonna say to you, whichever way I want to say it, and you're just gonna have to deal with it. And a lot of decoys have this attitude about them. I know decoys and trainers that really, they don't have a whole lot of experience. They really don't. They're okay at best. Not everybody's like this, of course. I'm not putting myself on a pedestal when I'm telling you this. But I'm just talking about some of the decoys that have less experience that still have this attitude. And it's because they are inflated by social media, by pictures, by videos, by comments, by shares, by likes. And so this, in their mind, translates into experience. This translates into, this is evidence that I am really good at what I do. And sometimes these people with not a whole lot of experience, rather than maintaining this attitude of, I still need to learn, rather than maintaining this attitude of, I'm here to help my client. And rather than having the attitude of, I am privileged that these people are trusting me with their dogs, they have this attitude of, I'm the shit, and because I'm the shit, you're gonna put up with whatever I have to say. And if you don't like it, get out of here. Well, that's what we run into with a lot of the decoys. That's what we run into with a lot of protection trainers. Now, you have that attitude with people that are new. Imagine the inflated ego that somebody's going to have if they've been doing it a lot longer. And imagine the inflated ego that somebody has if they're actually decent at what they do. And then we have this problem. I've also talked to decoys and trainers that are good trainers and that are good people that have told me, yeah, I used to, and I'm not judging them when I'm saying this, but I'm just explaining this interesting attitude where they've told me, I used to be nicer, but I notice that when I'm harsh, that people do better. And that is certainly a motivator. Okay, it works great in boot camp. You're gonna get your shit together when you go to boot camp. Although lately, from what I've heard, I mean, boot camp has freaking changed drastically, right? If we get slightly off topic here, they got phone privileges, they've got stress cards. Drill instructors are told to really tone it down a lot. That to me baffles me. When I went to boot camp, they talk to you like they talk to you like shit, right? They treated you like shit. There was no phones, no stress cards. I mean, they did everything except hit you, right? So, but it was a good experience. They didn't just beat you down; they also built you up. But anyway, so the harsh, strong attitude does get the best out of people sometimes. Okay, it is a good motivator sometimes. It can keep you on your toes. It can motivate you to do well because it's a form of negative reinforcement and punishment at the same time, which I'm talking about punishment in the sense of operant conditioning here, if we can translate that into what we're talking about. So it can certainly be a motivator to do well, and it could also be a good motivator to stop doing certain things that you don't want to do, that are not desirable. So pressure is certainly a good way to get things done. But the problem with just using pressure and not building up your handlers, not throwing them encouraging words, the problem with that is you can shut them down. And some people are sensitive. People are like dogs. They have different temperaments. And because they have different temperaments, you ideally take that into account. Because I might be harsh and I might get the best out of people that way. But if I have a good team, a good handler, that maybe is a little bit more sensitive, maybe I'm not getting the best out of them by using that approach. Maybe I could get more out of them if I balance out the pressure with some compliments, right? Look, John, Susan, etc. Look, John or Susan, that session didn't go well. You need to work on your handling. I'm giving you a hypothetical here. You need to work on your handling. You need to work on this, your footstep, your footwork. You need to be better prepared. But I like to find something that went well, and I'll go, but that went pretty well. That one thing right there, that second session or the second repetition or the last repetition went actually pretty well. Or, your dog is actually getting better. Dog was better than last week. As compared to last month, the dog is definitely making progress. And I'll even let them know, okay, that was good. Hey, Susan, that was good handling. That right there was good. Because people do need to be reminded of the things that they are doing well so that they can do more of those. And so some of these trainers that have told me, I used to be nice, but when I'm mean, that's when I get the best out of people. That's when people do better. That doesn't mean that being harsh and mean works better. It's just that maybe you as the delivery person, right? You as the teacher, as the instructor, as a professional, maybe you are better at being harsh, at being an asshole, as I said in the video, right? Maybe you are a good, skilled asshole, right? You're a good, skilled, very firm, harsh person. You can get the best out of people that way. That might be a skill that you have. Not everybody can do that. Some people are just assholes and freaking people hate them and then they never go back. But some people are good at being harsh. They're good at being firm. They're good at being assholes. So as they are freaking, they're telling you, basically they're telling you, pull your head out of your ass. They're doing it in a way that is just tactful enough that it draws the best out of you. But when they try to be nice, they're like, oh man, when I'm nice, I just don't do it. It just doesn't work. Well, being nice and being good at being nice, they're two different things. Just like being good as a firm motivator is not the same as being an asshole. Right? So you can be nice, and maybe you're just not that good at being nice. Maybe when you're nice, you are too tolerant. Being nice doesn't mean you're just tolerant. It means you're still firm. You're still letting them know this is exactly what I need you to do. There's no compromise to when we're doing this. But at the same time, it means the way you're delivering it caters more to the more sensitive person, right? Or it conveys your message in a way that is firm, but nobody feels like they're on their toes. Some people, the more firm you get, I've seen it, the more firm you get with them, the more they shut down, the more nervous they get. And so the more they shut down, the more nervous they get, the sloppier they get, the more mistakes they make, which then, of course, means the more mistakes they make, the more they're going to get yelled at. The more they get yelled at, the more sloppy they're going to get because they are afraid to make mistakes. And so now they're tense and they're not thinking right because they're so freaking terrified. And so they just keep screwing up and keep screwing up. And then the trainer keeps getting more pissed off. And it just turns into this very vicious cycle. And before you know it, that person's getting screamed off the field. The decoy is just an asshole. And then this doesn't go well. So with some people, you need to just take a time out and find a time to talk to them and tell them, hey, look, this is what I need you to do. You're not doing this the way I need you to. It is a safety hazard, and we need to make sure that we don't do this. And this is the way we have to do it, right? And if I have to repeat it a handful of times, I'll repeat it before I get to the point where I'm like, you need to freaking pay attention. Because sometimes that is appropriate. But in general, that's what I've noticed. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the protection training industry are like that, largely because of the ego, because of this invisible pedestal that they put themselves in and that others put them in. Okay, I see that too. People with not a lot of experience, they're not that good of a decoy. They're actually trying. Okay, they're learning, but they're not at the stage where they're actually doing great. But they're doing well, right? They're low experience, but they're doing well. But they're still learning. But you can tell they're still low experience. But what happens is they get their fan base to blow up their ego, and then before you know it, they just turn into these monsters. They turn into these people that, from the sidelines, you see that and you're like, dude, you're not even that good. You're not even that. You've never even actually done what that handler is doing. You've never actually achieved with your dog what the handler has achieved or is on its way to achieve. and you're having this attitude like you are this decoy or training god, that you can just berate anybody you want, and they're just gonna tell you, okay, master, I'll do that. And and that's what happens a lot in the protection training industry. Now, a lot of trainers are like that as well with their clients, but normally you don't see that quite as much there. You do, but not as much as you see it with protection training. Protection training, you're in the heat of the moment, and I understand that, right? You're in the suit, the dog is biting, you're having to pay attention to the dog, you're on top of that having to pay attention to the handler. There's just a lot going on at once, and sometimes the tempers will clash, right? Sometimes the personalities will clash a little bit. But we need to make sure that we do this tactfully without losing our cool.